To me, there's 5 credits that are primed for an update. I guess 4 are updates while 1 would be a new one. In today's video, we're looking at a pretty major change to one of the American Express Platinum Card's credits, and we'll talk about how that might affect your CAC list. We'll also look at some other credits that might be on the chopping block for a change and why that might be the case. Big favor before we dive into all of this is to give this a thumbs up to help with the algorithm, that way other people can see this, especially given the change. And if you are new here, you want to maximize those credits and your other credit card perks, then consider subscribing. If you're someone that has or you've considered the Platinum Card, a big part of their marketing is that you get over $1,500 in credits. And to be fair, I've generally pushed back on this because some of the credits are not that great and they're pretty hard to use. The best example of this in the past at least was probably the $300 Equinox one. Problem number 1 is that it was broken down into $25 per month. Number 2 is that it only worked for certain memberships, so it wasn't that usable. I had friends who went to Equinox who had memberships, but who couldn't benefit from this credit. The great thing is that all of this is changing. Beginning November 3rd, the annual $300 Equinox credit can be used for any membership. In the past, it was only for All Access, Destination, E, and Equinox Plus. Even better, starting in 2023, they won't be just $25 per month credits, but you have a $300 credit that you can use all at once. The idea is that this is only supposed to work for memberships, but that might not end up being the case. I think the best example of this is the airline incidental credit. So if you look at the terms and conditions, it only works for certain things and it doesn't sound that usable, but in practice, a lot of sub $100 charges end up triggering it. So for example, if I book a Delta flight, I use a gift card to cover most of it, and then I use a credit card, the Platinum Card, to cover the remainder. As long as it's under 100, it counts as additional collection and it triggers that credit. In the case of Equinox, I'd be curious if it works for the Equinox Hotel. And to be fair, it's still super expensive, so maybe not worth it, but worth a try. Number 2 is potentially day passes if you already have a membership and you need to go to a different city. If you do end up trying stuff, leave your data points down below and I'll try to summarize everything. Assuming no funny business, I think there's 2 easy ways to use the credits. Number 1 is going to be Equinox Plus, which is pretty much their online workout app. So they have different classes, whether it's HIIT, yoga, or weight-based stuff. Normally it's about $40 a month, $39.99. And if you divide 300 by 40, it's 7.5 months. If you don't want to pay anything out of pocket, round that down, it's 7 months. And to be fair, if you already have a routine and you don't want to use a workout app through your phone, then maybe this is valued at 0 still. I feel like I kind of fall into that zone where I mostly go to Barry's Bootcamp and that's kind of my preferred method of working out. But if this is nothing out of pocket, I might as well try it. Even if it's only 7 months and whether it's you or a family member or a friend using it, it's still something. Option number 2, and I'm not sure if this is going to work, is going to be stacking multiple Platinum Cards. So there's a few different ways to think about this depending on how absurd you want to be. If you have a friend that's already paying for Equinox, maybe you swap in your card for one of the months and then they take you out to dinner. Option number 2, maybe you have 10 friends, you do this roulette system and the winner ends up getting Equinox for free. Number 3 is if you have multiple Platinum Cards and then swap them out every month. And yes, that one probably sounds the most absurd, but there are a lot of people who do benefit from the credits, as surprising as that might seem, that they actually have multiple Platinums. I'll talk more about that in a second, but that, in addition to retention offers and upgrade-downgrade strategies, make it interesting if you have, I guess, a pretty high threshold for spending money and at least getting credits back. As stupid as it probably sounds, it does make sense for some people to pay $6,900 if they're getting, let's say, $9,000 back. I would love to get your thoughts on whether this credit change affects your perspective on the card or whether it's still a skip. And if it is still a skip, I wonder if the credit changes I suggest end up pushing you over. If you are considering this card, I'd strongly recommend mathing this out, whether it's writing on a piece of paper or playing with our calculator. If you Google AskSebby Platinum worth it should pop up. So for example, maybe Equinox is only worth $150 to you because you're testing the app out and you're not 100% sure, and maybe Walmart Plus is $0. On that note, if you do want to learn more about cards, whether it's American Express or some other issuer out there, and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive, but otherwise, it's a huge way to support the channel, so thank you guys in advance. If you are someone that's new to American Express, I'd recommend checking out Card Match. I'll put a blog post down below walking through that as well, because that's generally the best starting point for American Express. Okay, this sounds like a pretty niche perk still. Why does it matter? Number 1 is the economics of the card and how this might be past the break-even point for a lot of people. So $695 annual fee, but you have a $200 FHR hotel credit, $200 airline incidental, $200 Uber, and $100 Saks. To me, at least, these are $700 in credits that are pretty fair to value. Maybe you discount it by a little bit to $650 or something, but it's pretty close to $700. If you factor in the maybe pile, then it gets pretty interesting. So for example, global entry and TSA PreCheck, if you don't have that somewhere else, Clear, which is pretty good, digital entertainment, which is also pretty solid, and now Equinox. If you sit down to do the math, even if you're being very reasonable with the valuations, I think you would be pretty surprised by how much value you can get. Number 2, and more importantly, is that your opinion actually matters. Okay, kind of half kidding, but the joke of the Platinum card is that the Equinox credit wasn't very usable. It was something that sounded great, but it didn't really apply to most people. The fact that American Express or Equinox, or maybe both, decided to update the card is huge because it means that we might be able to encourage change elsewhere. And to be fair, this isn't new. We kind of saw the digital entertainment credit get an update and an addition that I didn't expect. A lot of people wanted Disney Plus as an option. I didn't really see that happening because why would Disney care? But they ended up adding it. So right now it works for the Disney bundle, which includes ESPN Plus, Hulu, and also Disney Plus. To me, this opens up Pandora's box for potential changes in the future for other credits. My guess is that it has to be a partner one, that way it doesn't affect American Express's bottom line, so I don't see the FHR ones changing, and also the airline incidental one. Going on a super fast side tangent for 30 seconds, I think the airline incidental credit works the way it does because they know that there is some breakage, and as long as it's not advertised, then they don't really care. On their end, I think they do know that some people are just cheap, even if they're very high income. If there was no way to bank the credits or to use it for additional collections, then they probably would cancel the card. A lot of normal people think that just because you might be rich or make a lot of money means that you're not cheap and you don't care about money. I think it's just ingrained in you if you grew up that way. To me, there's 5 credits that are primed for an update. I guess 4 are updates, while 1 would be a new one. Also, feel free to voice your opinions on new credits down below because I feel like there has to be an intern or someone else who's looking through this. Maybe, hopefully, they pass it up to their manager if they see enough feedback. Number 1 is the digital entertainment credit, and it's already pretty solid given the options that we have. For most people, I think the Disney bundle is the best bet, with Disney Plus, Hulu, as well as ESPN Plus. The funny thing is that I think I still have Peacock running on one of my cards, even though I haven't really logged into Peacock for a few months. I guess as long as the credit covers it, then it doesn't hurt. Maybe a weird one, but I'd love for them to add YouTube Premium as an option, just because that's something I already pay for and I've been using for years. The main draw is that you can watch stuff in the background, and you can also download stuff, so if you're traveling a lot like I was before, then you can download a bunch of videos and just listen to it on the back end. I think Twitch might also be interesting, but even better would be Netflix. In the past, they haven't really bothered because they haven't needed to, but given their kind of model changing with new ads and stuff, maybe it is now an option. I think Netflix might be willing to come back to the negotiation table, probably a low probability one, but it would be a nice to have. Number 2 is the Walmart Plus monthly membership. Instead of getting covered $12.95 per month, maybe $150 in credits. I think this one is extremely wishful thinking because that's not really their goal. They don't really want to be out of pocket here. They want to just push their membership and have more people have their Prime equivalent. Number 3, the $200 in Uber Cash. So instead of doling it out in $15 or $35 increments, just give us the $200 up front. I get why they did it the way in the past before because they want monthly active users. They want people to log in and use it for their numbers, but I feel like we're kind of past that stage. The bear case for this is that there's been a lot of layoffs in tech, and this is probably not top of mind. So for example, their competitor Lyft cut 13% of their workforce, so 650 people out of the 5,000 workers. Even companies like Stripe that were doing pretty well cut 14% of their employees, so about 1,100 people. The bold case for all of this is that Waymo as well as Cruise end up adding a lot more pressure to Uber, and they feel the need to do something.
Wow. I think there's actually no one in there. This is incredible.
On San Francisco streets, people are able to hail cabs with no driver, fully autonomous robo-taxis.
I've been noticing a lot more robots and autonomous tech, so the next 2 years should be pretty interesting. Number 4 is going to be the Saks credit, which never really made sense for me. So I don't know why they have $50 credits for every half year instead of just $100 upfront. For tech companies, it kind of makes sense because they need monthly active users, but for Saks, I just don't feel like that's the case. Just make it 100 and simplify it for everyone. Number 5 is not a change to a current one, but maybe a potential new one, and that'd be Resi. Maybe I'm crazy or they're saving it for a future push or the future update, but I'm surprised that we haven't seen a $250 or $200 Resi credit. And it doesn't have to work for all restaurants. It could still be their high-end ones or something, and maybe during only certain times, but it just seems like it would make sense given that they acquired this company. My educated guess for this is that they're going to do something the moment Chase and Capital One do something similar and then just try to one-up them. In a lot of ways, American Express kind of feels like the Apple, so even if Chase does something, then Apple will try to one-up them, and even if someone else did it first, it doesn't matter because it's American Express. It's that brand equity. Especially for normal people, there's still a lot of cachet with American Express. Again, if you want to learn about cards, whether American Express, Chase, Capital One, someone else, and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, AskSebby.com, and down below in the description box. If you made it to this point in the video, then leave a weightlifting guy emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond to the comment. My question for you is, what credits do you think are most likely to change, and which ones would you want to change? Or if not credits changing, what partnerships would you be interested in? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favor, give this a thumbs up, consider subscribing, but otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.